Hey everyone, David here. So, Gotham has finally returned after a month-long hiatus that I'm sure was due to the fact that I think maybe a week or two into the season and into the series as a whole, Fox announced, it was around that time, I can't remember the exact time, but it was around that time that Fox announced that they were going to add 6 more episodes to what was going to be a 16 episode season. But then they added 6 more, making it a 22 episode season, and because they needed to play catch up, I feel like that's where this month-long break came into play, because Fox wasn't showing anything in between that time. I mean, maybe they were showing reruns or something, maybe reruns of Gotham. I wasn't really paying that much attention, but they decided to take a month break before showing any of the new final 4 episodes of the season, and I think that's because they needed to add some of those episodes in and play catch up. And I'm telling you, that's the wrong way to do things, because then you're gonna paint writers in a corner, and I can go into a whole another tangent with that. But that's not what this video is about. This video is specifically to review the latest episode from Gotham entitled Birds of Prey, which I'll admit started off kind of sloppy and a little just not really well executed, but as it went on, it kind of won me over. By the end of the episode, I was actually much more rather intrigued, and I was, in my opinion, left with much more positive than I was negative. In this episode, Gordon and Bullock are investigating a case of this guy who kidnapped this woman, and at the beginning, this case is completely generic, uninteresting, and quite boring, to where I was checking my iPod. I was like, okay, I really do not care, because it almost felt like the episode wasn't caring about the case itself. I was like, okay, there's nothing really interesting about this case, and I really do not care. I was focusing more on some of the other subplots that were happening in this episode, more so than I was with this case. So I was like, okay, I really hope you guys make something happen in this case, because it's not winning me over. And then it went from being boring to being a bit of a parody, because it turns out the serial killer that they're going after is Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey. I'm not even kidding. I mean, it's so obvious that that's the inspiration they took to create the serial killer. Like, what if the guy that girl was falling in love with in that movie was actually even more sadistic than he originally was in that movie, and even more abusive? Let's go ahead and amp that up. And essentially that's what we get here with this character, who's by some referred to as the Don Juan killer or something like that, but most call him the Ogre, which I believe is referenced in the comics. I remember seeing some promos saying the Ogre arrives in Gotham, so I'm assuming he's from the comics, because he's it sounds like he's being referenced from there. But it's 50 Shades of Grey. That's all it is. It's Christian Grey amped up to 11 to make him a serial killer. And to me, it was kind of laughable. But then I think it got a little better, because towards the end, it gets revealed that the reason why he got this case from that anonymous police officer was that Loeb was planting this on him so that he can be at risk of losing the person that he loves, because that's who the killer goes after should he get investigated. He becomes practically untouchable at that point, and I thought that actually picked up. That became a whole lot more interesting, because it was cool that this was Commissioner Loeb's payback for Gordon practically blackmailing him at the end of that very last episode from last month, where Gordon figures out about Loeb's daughter, so now Loeb is coming back with a vengeance. The only other weak spot about this case was all those flashbacks. Some of them I understood, but then there were others that didn't make sense for them to be there, because there was nobody there to recount these events. Like, they were giving us flashbacks of things that nobody was there to witness, and yet we were just getting them. Now, David, we've seen that in other shows and movies and whatnot, and I understand that, but this is part of the mystery. Why are you showing us what is essentially supposed to be part of the mystery? Picking up from the last episode, Mooney tries to make her escape off of the island along with the people that she essentially betrayed, including that guy whose name escapes me, but he was the guy who was the most loyal to Fish, and I really felt bad for him, so I was hoping that he was gonna find his way off the island, and he does. However, it comes at a price, and that price would have been much more impactful should we not know what is probably going to be the outcome for Mooney after Jada Pinkett Smith's announcement a few weeks back, I think almost a month back, stating that she will not be returning for Season 2. So that kind of painted the idea in our minds that Mooney is probably going to be dying by the end of the season. And based on that last scene of this subplot in this episode, that's probably where we're going at with the shot in the stomach. I'm not kidding you. If Jada Pinkett Smith was not making that announcement that she wasn't going to be returning in season 2, that scene wouldn't have been shot. It would have just carried on over, and the chopper would have escaped conveniently without a single shot from those that security down at the island. But because Jada said no, don't want to do season 2, I think they had to go back and reshoot that scene to have her get shot in the stomach, leading to what is probably going to be her demise either in the next episode or the one after that, because she's probably going to have at least one more thing up her sleeve before she finally bites the big one. Now, I will admit that when she announced that she wasn't going to be returning for season 2, the possibility of her dying did jump into my mind, but along with that, also the possibility that even if she's not coming back for season 2, she could still maybe come back in like a cameo or return in season 3. Just because she says she's not coming in season 2 doesn't mean that she can't make space for season 3 later on down the line should there be a third season. However, being the way circumstances are funneling their way towards the season finale and these final 3 episodes, that's probably where we're going at. And for the most part, this subplot didn't really do anything new that we haven't seen before from Mooney. I mean, she was even complete with some of those really cringe-worthy line deliveries, which it was like, don't even bother leaving without me. Bruce, along with the help of Selena Kyle, investigate why Reggie was sent to his house, who sent him there, and try to track him down, and they find him in a shooting gallery, and that was a clever double entendre on the term shooting gallery. And when they find him, they're confronted with the truth of who sent Reggie to basically assault Alfred. And so Bruce does get his answers. However, in a somewhat artificial turn for Reggie, he decides to say in his final words that I'm going to turn on you. I'm going to tell him like what you're doing here, and this is going to get you killed. Because I understand that maybe he was on drugs. Actually, he was on drugs. Why am I saying wait? Maybe. He was on drugs. And that probably had an influence on why he was being a bit of a dick. But it still felt like a sudden turn for Reggie, based on how likable he was being made in that episode where he comes over to the house and he has those talks with Alfred of the good old times. Those were really good scenes that made for a very tragic character because, you know, he came across as a really compelling character, but then he had to perform that act that he clearly did not want to do by the end of the episode, so that kind of put him at odds with himself. Here, however, he just says, oh, I'm going to be a dick because I'm on drugs. However, the cool moment was what it led to, which is that moment where he's leaning over the window to try to reach for his drugs, and we have the defining moment of both Bruce, who's going to become Batman, and Selena Kyle, who's going to become Catwoman. Bruce, as tempted as he was to push him literally over the edge to kill him, he can't bring himself to do that because that's eventually going to become his one rule, to not kill. However, Selena, considering that she's going to become somewhat of a villain and on occasion anti-hero, has no problems pushing him to the side, and I feel like that's where Selena Kyle became Catwoman. That's where we're going to start seeing I'm pretty sure in the next episode or in the preceding episodes, we're going to have Bruce confronting Selena, why did you do that? And that's possibly going to create that divide amongst them and why they have that on and off again relationship later on when they do become Batman and Catwoman. And there was another subplot of Penguin taking over this bar. Again, another baby step. According to this episode, another baby step to try to plot and kill Mooney because that's his main antagonist at the moment. But it was again another little baby step in the plot that he's creating and not really moving anything forwards. Practically didn't care by the end of the episode. So anyways, it started off kind of sketchy with a few sloppy moments that I felt could have been done better, like that moment where Fish goes out. Did you really not expect to be some kind of militia of some kind on that island, or some kind of force that's gonna drive people back inside should they be aggressive? I mean, really? And she just conveniently opens the door, hears the alarm, and she's walking, like she's tiptoeing outside on the snow. Like, what are you doing? Did you really? What was the plan there? Okay, and again, those flashbacks were kind of oddly placed, but as it went on, it won me over because, again, the case got a little bit better because of how complex it got, leading Commissioner Loeb into it, and I like that they're carrying it over to the next episode and didn't resolve it at the end. I felt like that gives it time to breathe, essentially, and make it a much more effective case that's going to affect everybody, including Bullock and Loeb. And from the looks of some of those preview images, Barbara. Is she going to be the ogre's next victim? We can only hope so. Anyways, I thought that it got better by the end, but there were some mishaps that I couldn't ignore. So for that, I give Birds of Prey a 7 out of 10. It's a good episode by definition, but I felt like we needed a little bit more for Gotham's return. But again, I'm pretty sure that that month-long gap was due to those to the addition of those 6 episodes. And if it wasn't for that, this episode would have had much more potential. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of Gotham, and I'll see you guys next time.